Okay, it's preparing to live stream. I might have to.
I think it is like streaming live on my side.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay, I can see it over here. So now I'm going to click out of it. So if I click out of it, I won't be able to see comments. John, are you saying something?
No.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So what I want to do is I need to have part of this up just to see the comments, and then yep.
Hey, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good.
Hey, John. Hey, Stephanie.
Hey, Tom. Hang on just 1 second.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay. We'll just stay up because it'll be a few minutes before people find us anyway. So
Yeah.
just wanted to get it working and try to figure out how I can see the comments over there on YouTube, but also stay over here on Zoom at the same time.
So I see that you're the stream on YouTube here.
Can you see the comments?
I'm looking right now.
Okay.
In theory, no one's commented yet.
Okay, but you can see the comment
Yeah.
section. Okay, I'm just muting my YouTube so we don't get feedback here. Okay, so I think I can see. I just periodically click over and look at the comments.
Because we're having like a secondary laptop or something. Could be useful.
Yeah, or just if I could get I have a screen, like a second screen, if I could just get like
You guys hear me?
monitors, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Tom,
All
how
right.
are you?
Good. I thought I'd put on my Chinese outfit from all my teaching in China.
Oh, beautiful. I love it.
Thanks. Thanks.
So, Tom, thanks for showing up. We are actually we're actually live on YouTube right now. We went ahead and just started streaming early,
Oh, okay.
just to make sure that everything was working appropriately. And it's
All
gonna
right.
it'll be a few minutes before anybody even finds us. I don't think anybody's watching us right now. But I just wanted to
okay.
let you know, so if you know, wanted to pick your nose or
now-
something.
Stephanie, you never know who's watching you. Remember that. We
True.
don't think somebody's watching us, but
That's a
we
good
just
point.
don't know. Yeah,
Right.
we just don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good point.
God, I've been working past few days on getting ready for my trip to Holland. I'm teaching my 10-day course in hypnosis therapeutics.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, so yeah, it is cool. It's great to be going back. It's been a while since I was here, so
I love Holland.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful country.
it sure is.
Yeah. So I've been there briefly. I was there for about a week in Amsterdam, but
Oh,
I
been
don't
there
remember
twice.
remember
Fell
much
in love with it.
of that trip. No idea. I'm
So-
just kidding.
So John, have you been to Holland a number of times or just once?
I've
too?
been there twice and absolutely fell in love with it. There's a city called Groningen. Well, the
Okay.
American bastardized way of saying it. And small town, tens of thousands of bicycles. First
Yes.
2 days, I hated it because I had to
Bicycles
drive
everywhere.
and I was nervous. And then
Yeah.
the town was so quaint and nice that it stole my heart. It just beautiful. The people were great. Been to Amsterdam a couple times as well. Fun city. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I spent a lot of years teaching in Den Haag, They call that The Hague, and then a town called Arnhem, which was really a fascinating place to teach, and had some very interesting experiences occur in Arnhem.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe well, let's definitely get to that when we start the show. In fact, John, it's
right.
4:00. Do you want to go ahead and officially start the show, and then I'll read this massive and very impressive bio that Tom.
Oh wow! You highlighted it.
You know what? I highlighted it, going like, okay, this is a lot. I'm not going to read this, and then I ended up highlighting like most of it anyway, and then. Down here where it's not that page, but down here where this is not highlighted, I just said, just read all that because I just got tired of highlighting.
well, I can simplify. All you have to say is, hey, this dude's been around the block a few times.
Yeah, for sure. But you do have an impressive resume, and I do want to read it because I do want the viewers to know, like, just what an amazing person, what an amazing being you are. So, all right. So, John, why don't you go ahead and open the show, and then we'll get on with it.
Hello and welcome to the Woo Side podcast. We are your hosts, John Hall and Stephanie Conkle. I am a hypnotist, amateur historian, and overall good guy. Stephanie? And
I'm your co-host, Stephanie Conkle, creator of the Profound Somnambulism Protocol. I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. And this is not a show about hypnosis per se, as the title infers, the woo side. This show is just about anything that's been extraordinary that happens that maybe a lot of people don't talk about, but it's very interesting. And so so that's why we exist, to talk about things that people don't talk about, right? Because it's just really cool. But let me introduce you guys to our wonderful guest, Tom Silver. Okay, so for the past 30 years, Tom Silver has been a certified hypnotherapist with a private practice in Westlake Village, and now, okay, can you say that word for me? Ojai Hypnotherapy?
Oh yeah, that's kind of an older resume. I'm in Medford, Oregon now, but I did have practices back there.
All right. He is in 1985. He founded the Tom Silver Institute of Scientific and Clinical Hypnotherapy, created to further the advancement of scientific neurological hypnotherapy. In 1995, he pioneered the therapeutic hypnosis method, emotion replacement therapy, or ERT, which is a process of producing low brain wave frequency states, enabling access to the subconscious mind to delete and desensitize the emotional impact of various mental and psychosomatic disorders, and to reinstall positive emotions and habits. In 1995, he founded the Eeg Hypnosis Institute, utilizing EEG technology as it pertains to brainwave frequency observations and the relationship to various levels and depths of hypnosis receptibility. This institute furthers the study of the brainwave frequency and amplitude states referencing beta, alpha, theta, delta. In 2005, he founded the Hypnosis Foundation, advancing scientific hypnotherapy techniques and pioneering new methods of interactive hypnosis induction methods via stimulation of the central nervous system to quickly bypass conscious resistance and altering brainwave frequencies and amplitudes, creating the most receptive states of hypnosis. In 2009, he founded the Neurophysiology Institute, which is a nonprofit organization providing an academic and scientific forum for studies in the physiological, biological, and psychological effects of neurophysiological therapy, again, ERT, or emotion replacement therapy, EEG therapy, and other therapies that can further benefit natural healing to mankind. Tom Silver brought the science of hypnosis to Taiwan between the years of 1994 and 1999. How cool is that? Conducting lectures, demonstrations, and seminars throughout the country, appeared on various national Taiwan television programs, lectured for the Olympics Association, the Taiwan Police Academy, the Buddhist Association, and worked with the Taiwan Department of Defense. In 1999, he created the first hypnosis program for the Taiwan government to help the Taiwan military soldiers and civilians overcome emotional trauma pertaining to a natural disaster earthquake, which occurred in September of 99. Okay. Between 1996 and 1999, he conducted a number of specialized hypnosis training courses, seminars, and workshops at the Hypnosis Motivation Institute of Tarzana, California. Tom Silver has appeared on many national television and radio shows in the USA and Taiwan, demonstrating the positive long-term and instant effects of hypnotherapy. You might recognize him because he's been on television a lot. I've seen several of his shows. He is also the author of these books. This one co-authored by Dr. Orman McGill is called The How-To Book of Hypnotism. Another one also authored by Orman McGill, or Dr. Orman McGill, is Hypnosis Training and Techniques Manual. The Big Questions of How to Hypnosis. Did I read that right? Good
enough.
Okay. Printed in Mandarin Chinese for Asian market, written by Tom Silver, Orman McGill, and the interpreter. And then How To Book of Forensic Hypnosis Investigation, Solving Crimes with Hypnosis, which sounds awesome, and I need to pick that up myself. Then he's got various and several awards and recognitions and certificates. In July of 1997, Tom Silver and Timothy Huang, did I say that right? Wang, were awarded. Wang, okay, thank you. Timothy Wang were awarded Taiwan's Gold Plate of Honor from the Taiwan Department of Defense and Minister of Defense for their contribution in helping gather pertinent information using forensic hypnosis, investigating techniques on witnesses, victims, and the accused concerning the high-profile murder case of Navy Captain, you're going to have to help me with this, Yin Chen Feng?
Very good, yes. Very
okay. And the $2.4 billion weapons procurement scandal with France.
Yes.
Wow. And then he's got several past membership affiliations, several academic achievements, and I could go on and on and on, but we'll be here for another 2 days. But welcome to the program, Tom.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, and it was an honor to be here. After that introduction, I think we're out of time, folks. So
yeah, it's time to go.
We'll catch you next time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, and just you were just so gracious to accept the invitation. I've been wanting to actually talk to you for a long time because you're somebody who really have knowledge, and I really believe that you're someone, like, you're very open-minded, but you're also practical at the same time. And that's what I love about you. And you're someone in the industry who maybe caused a little bit of controversy, saying that, you know, people can be hypnotized against their will and without their knowledge. But it's true, isn't it? And so people don't want to hear the truth. And anyway, so that's what sort of like fascinated me about you, is that you are someone who knows how to do, who has shown how to do it, that this can be done on national television, in fact. So anyway, welcome to the show again.
Thanks. Glad to be here. Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks, Stephanie.
And I also know that you have some stories and stuff that you'd like to share with us about some paranormal experiences that you've had with ghosts and I think you said graves, and just like some other paranormal experiences, and then something about Buddha that I'm going to ask about a little bit later.
Okay.
So tell me, gosh, there's just like so much to dig into, and you're such a deep and complex person. You've had a lot of experience. and there's so much that I want to know about you that it's hard to even know where to begin. Um, but and I said this show is not specifically about hypnosis, but we can talk about hypnosis. And I think a good topic to maybe even start with is what I just brought up earlier about um, how you actually can hypnotize people against their will and without their knowledge. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, well, let's face it. I mean, people are bombarded with suggestion and hypnosis every single day. The news media, religion, um, you know, just everything. Fear is hypnosis. Imagination is hypnosis. Anytime that you feel a physiological experience to a thought or something going on in your reality, you have been made sensitive to that. So becoming sensitive, or what we call hypersensitive, creates hypersuggestibility, which is all a part of hypnosis. And the viewers out there, each and every one of you have been hypnotized every single day. I don't even need to go into brain science and brain waves to tell you we're going in and out of the thetas, the gammas, the betas, the deltas, almost by fragmentally, almost by every microsecond. And people are constantly going in and out of those zone states. I don't really like the word trance because it's like, yes, master, I'm in a trance. I mean, the word trance creates a fear. It's a scientific word, but also one of the definitions is a medium communicating to the dead. So we use certain words in science that also relates to the spiritual realm or the metaphysical realm. But the fact is, everyone is tuning out from time to time. Even memory loss. My golly, where am I? What happened to me? That's the biggest fear people have when they go into hypnosis is, either they remember everything or they don't remember everything, and then they freak out, or they justify it and say, well, maybe I fell asleep because
Exactly.
was I snoring? Was my mouth dribbling?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
But the fact is, driving your car on automatic pilot is hypnosis. Watching a movie and you're stimulated all of a sudden into the action of the movie. You're thrown into that movie that's make believe with a bunch of actors that the fantasy becomes your reality. You're hypnotized. So we go in and out of those suggestible states. People listening to the news first thing in the morning are so programmed because both of you guys know this. When you wake up first thing in the morning, you're in a lower brainwave state. You're more suggestible. When you're drifting out of consciousness into what we might call a natural sleep, at that point you're also more suggestible. So the bottom line is not that most people aren't hypnotized. Most people are walking around in waking hypnosis. And even in my book, when I talk about the 4 stages of hypnosis, the first one is being influenced in the waking state. So anytime you're influenced, which changes your philosophy or your psychology or your belief system, well, somebody has influenced you.
Right, for sure.
So if we want to call, so many people out there are hypnotists. Some teachers are real bad hypnotists. That's why the students don't learn. But the teachers that are really, that can articulate, that can move, that can create humor, that can get you connected in, are the best teachers, not the monotone ones. And some people say, well, I'm a hypnotist and we got to have a hypnotic voice and I got to have my little medallion. I got my little Chinese shirt on. I should have my little medallion so I can swing it around and say, look and do my medallion. But hypnosis is everywhere.
That's
I have a book out in China called Life is Hypnosis. So we're in and out of these trance states. And you ever forget where you put your cell phone? Or did you lock your car? Or did you lock your house when you got in your car and thought, well, did I really lock my door? And you go back and do it? Well, we can call that absent-mindedness, but we're going to call that a form of unconscious operation hypnosis.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because we get so many people who say, I don't think I can be hypnotized, or I heard every word you said, when the hypnotist is working with them. And what they're not realizing is that they are being programmed, and they could be programming themselves to say, I'm someone who can't be hypnotized. Right? And that's the program that's running in the background.
Right,
But
but
when
think
in
about
fact,
it. Go
we're
ahead.
always in hypnosis, right?
Right, we're always in various frequency states all the
Okay.
time, in and out of consciousness. But think about the person that says, I can't be hypnotized. Maybe there's a fear in them that thinks, oh my God, if I'm hypnotized, I'm going to lose control. So some people think being hypnotized is losing control, but most people out there have already lost control, man. They've lost control of their
Right.
thoughts. They've lost control of their reality. They're filling their minds up with all these negative emotions and amplifying all this reactions to the past. We can call it rumination, or fantasies and imagination towards a negative outcome in the future. So think about it. The word COVID is a hypnotic term. You know, we're all going in and out of hypnosis.
For sure.
And I'm not talking politics. I'm not getting into any of that other stuff.
Well,
but the cool
emotional responses too come up from the subconscious. So anytime you have a deep emotional response, that has to touch on something from the subconscious for you to even be able to feel it.
Well, think about this. If I access a memory, like for example, I'm going to think about this morning when I made a bagel with an egg with some cheddar cheese on it. Okay, I access the memory. Okay, so when I access this memory, most hypnotists will say, oh, well, you've accessed it from your subconscious. Because most hypnotists are limited in what they really know about hypnosis. So we create generalized words for specific areas, conscious, subconscious. Well, folks, there's a whole bunch of layers in between all that gobbledygook. And all reality is, if you really want to talk about scientific and medical terminology, that the memories that I can access to my conscious mind is called the preconscious. It's not called the subconscious. The subconscious memories are the memories that we cannot consciously actually completely remember. They're what we might call the repressed memories that can get opened up when you are in that lower brainwave frequency state of physical muscle relaxation and increased receptivity towards the words of the operator and hypnotist that we call hypnosis.
Yeah, so
that
interesting.
Preconscious. No one talks about the preconscious.
I've never even heard anyone use that term, preconscious. Interesting.
Right, and that's because our terminology and our educational curriculum is very, very limited. See, I spend a lot of time, I work and train a lot of medical doctors, anesthesiologists, surgeons, a lot of people in what they call the licensed therapy. And unfortunately, the licensed therapy, whether you think is good or bad, the fact is there's certain standards of education. And those standards of education in the field of hypnotism is thrown way out the window, because anything goes and anybody certifies, and anyone and anybody can call themselves a hypnotist or hypnotherapist or whatever you want to call it. And the fact is, when we're dealing with people's minds, we really need to know more about the neurology, the physiological aspect of the body, the various organs, as well as the fact of we need to know more, be more educated in medical science and how that relates to hypnotism science.
Yeah, and since this is called the woo side, I'm going to bring this somewhere else.
Sure.
Just I want to bring this up into the superconscious realm. And what are your thoughts on that? Because I have some opinions on the superconscious and what I believe. And I didn't always believe this. I was pretty strictly brain-based for a long time until I started really getting into deeper hypnosis and developing my profound somnambulism protocol, getting the direct voice and all of that, where I believe that there is a part of the consciousness that is spiritual, that is the soul, that is connected to source energy, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. And we can sort of communicate with that part of the consciousness as well. And that part helps us. What are your beliefs on that? Do you believe that this is like the soul inhabiting the body and the brain is more like a translator of the soul, or are you more brain-based where, this is just all imagination or like a dreamlike state or something of that nature?
Well, I believe that we function, most people function on a very linear vibrational plane. So most people cannot see beyond the horizon of their own perceived reality.
Correct.
But when you get out of that perception of your own preconditioned vibrational reality, there's many more dimensions and harmonics within the playing field, which is way further than fourth or fifth dimensional reality. In fact, Orman and I were working on that, and I'm just going to read you just a little chapter because we called it the fourth state of hypnosis.
Okay.
And some people can access this automatically. Some people are born with that ability.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are born with that part of the brain that is dormant for most human beings, and we can call that the spiritual brain. We can call it the enlightened brain. We can call it our higher self. We can call it the intuitive, mind, whatever is that connection beyond our own perceived reality. But listen to this.
Right.
In this advanced state, and I'm using this in the terms of hypnosis, but this goes way beyond hypnosis. In this advanced state of hypnosis, the psychic and intuitive powers of the mind seem to advance. Clairvoyance can be produced and telepathy manifested. Now, this is coming exactly from Orman McGill, transmitted to me live. And it is the ESP realm of the mind. And it says, and here, only a relatively small percentage of people seem to show these special abilities. If a subject has talent in this direction, as well to concentrate hypnotic work with them along those psychic lines. Now, that's what the old hypnotists used to do in the old days.
Right.
The mesmerists, the magnetists. They would work and create these really altered dimensional brilliant people. They called them sensitives, and they would take them in and do all kinds of demonstrations with them.
Like
even Mesmer,
like Polgar. Do you know who he is?
Franz Polgar. Polgar used to teach hypnosis in some of Freud's courses.
So he would had this telepathic ability, right? And then what he would do before his shows is he would have the audience hide his paycheck for that night, for the show, anywhere they wanted to hide it. Okay. And he would have to come out and somebody would have to telepathically direct him to where it was. And they came up with all kinds of creative, places to hide it. Like, sometimes inside a lady's bosom or, up on the balcony or even in another building. And so someone had to transmit to him telepathically, and then he would pick up the signals, and then he would go, and he found his paycheck every single time. And he got a lot of gigs that way because his manager said, you don't have to pay him if he doesn't find your check. And everybody wanted to see him do that, which is so amazing to me. Telepathy. Lately I kind of feel like I've been able to telepathically communicate a little bit with some people, and I don't know if it's I'm picking up on what they're about to say, or if I've given them the thing to say and then they're saying it. But I'm like sort of blowing myself away because this is a topic that I've been interested in lately, and so I've been sort of practicing it. What are your thoughts on that? And John, you can jump in too if you'd like.
Okay, well, John's waiting for me, so I'll address it. Thank you, sir. First of all, how many times do we just call something a coincidence? You're thinking of someone and they call you.
Right.
Or you're concerned about somebody and you call and there's something going on. We pick up these impressions. I'll call them impressions. We pick up stuff through the cosmos without even realizing it, and for some people it happens all the time. You're thinking about a friend and 2 or 3 times or 4 times a year that person contacts you. Well, the question is are they putting the message into your mind? Are you putting the message into their mind? Or are you both synchronizing?
Hmm.
Are you both tuning into
Right.
the same
Picking it up.
frequency plane? Absolutely. And I believe that's true. I believe that stuff happens all the time. But you've got to be open to the possibilities of it, and you've got to get out of your preconditioned self. Look at little kids. Look at little tiny kids when they're bored, when they start, talking or just reacting. They actually communicate with a lot of different, we'll call them entities. We'll call
That's
them,
true. Yeah.
we'll call those souls that are on various different planes of existence that those little kids actually are playing with, communicating with. Now, of course, the parent would say, "Oh, yeah, well, look, they're just making believe. Stop that,
Imaginary
Johnny.
friends.
Yeah, stop that, Johnny. Cynthia, there's no Cynthia." So what are the parents doing? They're closing our mind. They're closing our intuition. They're closing these natural God-given abilities that we were born with, that humans would have that potential to operate. It's just like dreams. Most people don't remember their dreams because they're not using that muscle, that certain area of the brain. So there's those areas of the brain that can tap in to multi-dimensional fields. Now, when I was in Taiwan, let me tell you this. When I was in Taiwan, I had a real tough agent. I was signed to a 5-year contract, and that guy wanted to become the biggest hypnotist in Asia, but he wanted to use me so that he could become the biggest hypnotist in Asia. So I did all the work and he tried to do all the credit. But there were many times when we were traveling around and he'd stop me from talking. And he said, "I don't want you to speak to me. I want you to communicate to me and have conversations with me mentally." And I learned how to do it. So there were times we were driving around and this dialogue was going on between both of us, sometimes for a few minutes, sometimes for hours. And I knew what was really happening because I really was I was receiving it and I was transmitting it. So I was actually practicing, without realizing it too, the art of energy projection. You might call it soul projection. You can call it any word you want, but at the same
astral
time,
projection maybe, or something like that.
Astral projection was a little bit different because I also mastered astral projection in Taiwan. And every time I came to the United States after a few weeks, it was gone, man, because I went back down to this low resonant playing field, this low vibrational plane, man, the material world.
Yeah.
So I went
that makes sense.
From the etheric spiritual world back into the low evolved material plane. And so, but I learned, I had the ability to see a Buddhist temple way on top of a mountain. And I had the ability to project myself onto a leaf on the tree and feel it, touch it and feel it, to go into the temple and to see what was in the temple, to touch the walls. I had the ability of what I would call full facilitated astral projection. And I was able to master it every time I went back to Taiwan. And I went back to Taiwan, probably 7-8 times over a 7-year period or 8-year period. Yeah. Right. So
they say that more indigenous, like tribal people they communicate telepathically. Animals communicate telepathically, but once you don't need to do that anymore because we've got the telephone and the computers and all of that, right? Then that part of your brain just goes dormant and it's just sleeping. Like you said, it's just like a muscle. If we don't use it, then it's just going to atrophy, right?
Right. And we can say maybe it's sleeping, but maybe we can say it's been shut off. Maybe it's been locked off because we forgot how to exercise it and use it. See, we learn to forget. We are programmed to forget. And when we're born with a mind free of consciousness, we're born with a mind and a spirit and a soul that can travel freely in and out of our body, out of this source. And
right.
And
so
I believe that, but I'm also a scientist. So I'm sorry. I'm a scientist, but I'm also a spiritualist at the same time.
Sure, and I don't think that the two have to conflict with each other. I think they're both they're two columns. They both hold up the building, right? which I guess your person. But I wanted you to sort of clarify, what's the difference between soul projection and astral projection?
Well, I think when you think about soul projection, astral projection, it actually also, to me, involves a kinesthetic experience. So if I can truly astral project somewhere, I can actually feel what the substance is like. I'm actually physiologically, kinesthetically sensitive to that reality. But I think when you're talking about a soul progression, astral projection, or soul projection, I think a soul, my own belief, and I wrote a book on this called Never Fear Dying Again. I believe that a soul projection, I'm not here to sell anything. I don't care to sell anything. But I believe that a soul projection means that I can take my soul and I can move up to the various higher vibrational planes or spiritual planes or God planes. I can move into the other areas of the universe and get out of the earth, get gravitational pull. So I think, and then if you really think about a soul projection, a soul projection means you can communicate to many other souls that are without their physical mechanism, the human body. Because let's face it, the brain is a functional tool. It's an organ, and it has thoughts and memories, and it activates all of the unconscious operations of the body.
Right.
But without the heart beating, everything else dies. So we might say the soul is in the kind of maybe the heart chakra, if you want to call it, of the human beings. So when we know that energy only changes, but it never dies, we are energy chambers. We know that we're chemical energy, electrical energy, neurons, and all of that other stuff. But the fact is, we can be with our soul in this dimension or in many other dimensions, especially when you sleep, because when you sleep and you get out of consciousness, then you can get into what you might have called super consciousness or supreme consciousness.
Well, where does that remote viewing fit into that?
Well, remote viewing is an interesting deal. I did a Fox special years ago called Powers of the Paranormal. And I was on with this #1 remote viewer and James Van Praagh and who's the guy that bends spoons, the Israeli guy? What was his name?
Yuri Geller.
Yuri Geller.
Yuri Geller,
I got along great with James Van Praagh and Yuri Geller, and I have my own opinions about one of them. But I was with a remote viewer, and that remote viewer was trying to get out of consciousness. Now think about it. If I'm remote viewing, I'm in an altered state of projection while still amplifying the cognitive conscious part of the mind. And I think that can interfere sometimes with the true perception of altering time and space and being in another place.
Okay, yeah,
in the
that
current
makes sense.
state of now. So we did some limited stuff, and it was okay. But there were people that actually knew exactly where that person was and what parking lot and what other area. So what if the remote viewer was doing what Franz Polgar did? What if the remote viewer was reading somebody else's impression of where they had that person stationed? But yet it's coming out as remote viewing, but maybe it's a form of mind reading.
Yeah, I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah. And think about it. If you're trying to find somebody that's been hidden by the enemy and you're really good at telepathic mind reading, channel into the predators that hid the person or buried something or done something, and you can get that information. The key is, and I've noticed this even with James Van Praagh, and he got really upset. He had a real bad reading and he got really upset and he was mad and angry and he was venting out to me, how dare them make me do this? And then the following year, he had a daily TV show called Beyond. I was on that show 3 times doing hypnotism stuff. But the fact is, even people that are really skilled sometimes have the difficulty of switching it on command and then shutting it off on command. And I think that our emotions and our reality of what's going on in our life could be an interference. Could be
for sure.
Almost like something that blocks us. Does that make sense to you, John?
It does. And so Stephanie brought up a point about remote viewing versus astral projection that I was actually going to ask you, because you kind of clarified what I was going to ask you, because you made the distinction that with the astral, there's like a kinesthetic experience to go with it. So I was going to ask you, when you projected onto that leaf, did you in fact have a kinesthetic experience with it?
I had a kinesthetic experience, and I actually had I was able to fully be right there. So I actually was able to disconnect from myself, hidden on a secret compound, looking at this Buddhist temple way up in the mountain and the leaf. So I was able to disconnect from self. And I think that's really interesting, because if you can somehow disconnect from yourself, from the source, then you can outsource, so to speak. You can actually go somewhere else, but not be in an observing, disconnected way. You could fully be integrated into that. And again, I just didn't do that once or twice. I did it many times. I don't talk to people about this, you know. People know me as this scientist guy, and if people knew exactly what I've experienced in Taiwan. There was one time that Dr. Wong was working with me, and there was this woman, and my God, she was miserable. This woman was riddled with guilt and pain. And most of these people I was hypnotizing and working with through an interpreter, none of them spoke English. And the biggest challenge she had, her biggest sorrow, was that her son was terminally ill, and she wanted him to die at home. And her husband, I don't believe it was his real father, but it might have been. I don't want to confabulate. Confabulate is fill in the pieces that you might not remember. So she was riddled with guilt because her husband forced him to go into a hospital and die alone in the hospital. So this woman was riddled with pain, guilt, and torment. So Dr. Wong and I hypnotized her, put her into that receptive state, got rid of the consciousness, got all that internal chatter out of the way, you know, lowered the volume on the cell phone, so to speak. And I was able to push her into the spirit world. I was actually through a series of impressions in my mind, and we might call this projection, but I'm going to call it mental impressions. See, how can I get the result if my mind is somewhere totally somewhere else, or if my mind is built on superficial bullshit? You know, like thinking about when I go home and eat some Chinese food or whatever, you know. But I was there with her, and I needed to take her beyond the veil. I needed to get her to the other side. I needed to not just open the door, but to push her into the other area. So it's great, because with Dr. Wong and I, we were able to put her not transform. What's another word when you put someone somewhere?
Transcend.
Transcend. Thank you. That's great. We were able to transcend her into the spirit world, and she was able to go to whatever I'll call it vibrational plane that her son was on. And I would have to think it was a pretty low one, because he was full of anger and pain and rage. So kind of what we might even call pretas. India philosophy calls those very earthbound souls, you know. And so she was able to go up to him. Now he had his back to her. She was calling to her son, and he refused to turn around because he was still angry. He was carrying this wound into the spirit world, you know. So it was a wound in his soul. He had a wounded soul. So she was able to hold him, and I could watch it, and she's speaking Chinese, man. I mean, and Dr. Wong giving me some of the interpreting, but I'm listening to him, but I'm more into
like what
being
she's
part of the
doing.
experience. I'm into perceiving and feeling the experience of what's going on with her. I'm into being there in the spiritual plane with her. And I don't need to hear Dr. Wong's, you know, chatter, and his every other word is you know. It's like, so she's talking to him and hugging him and talking to him and hugging him, and then finally he turns around and forgives her. And this
Aw.
joy comes onto her face. These tears come on. And these were not tears of pain. These were tears of she was cleansed. These were tears of complete joy, because she was there to comfort her son in the afterlife, in the
That's
afterworld.
beautiful.
Yeah. And then when we brought her back out, took her out back into the physical plane, back to consciousness, she was healed. And she was so happy for her son, because he could move on now. He didn't have to be stuck here in this kind of Bardo terminal,
So that's that's how souls get stuck here, right? There's some sort of unresolved business.
Well, unresolved business
or charged emotions, right?
Or charged emotions. Now remember, what's the difference between the material and the spiritual? The difference is the vibrational
density,
plane.
the vibration, yeah.
Right. So we can say we're like coarse sandpaper. If we can say like the astral spiritual planes is like the most finest sandpaper, the most softest, beautiful sand you can ever put your fingers through. So, so I believe that tormented souls, people who have untimely deaths, tragedies, head-on accidents, killed on the freeway, and people put those crosses up, and they put things on those crosses. I think those people, through their own pain, is keeping these people earthbound, is keeping them coming back to the place of departure, something they can never resolve. It's almost like the stages of loss. We got to get into acceptance to move on.
Right.
So, so I do think that some people come back also because of various addictions, various desires, earthly desires. Lust,
interesting.
Sex, material wealth, whatever it is. So the fact is, there are reasons why people or souls inhabit the lower vibrational planes or earth, and sometimes people see them, or they can manifest or whatever. But I think also those are the people that tend to reincarnate back to life, is because they are missing something. Your love, someone you're madly in love with, and you're heartbroken, your soul's still broken, a broken soul. But I believe you can heal as you evolve and learn, because that's what life is. Karma isn't, I'm going to do good to somebody because I know it's going to get me somewhere else, and I'm going to come back more virtuous or more rich or wealthier. That's not what karma is. Karma, to me, is how do we react in an arena of sadness? How do we perceive our own inner peace in a world of turmoil? So my belief is, if I can evolve, maybe if I choose to, or if I'm forced to come back on the earth, maybe I'm going to come back with even more challenges, maybe even more pain, maybe even more of crosses to bear,
right?
Because that's how I am able to evolve on this earth.
Absolutely.
But if I do something good, thinking that I'm going to get something good in turn, that's really not a true act of kindness or God's work, because you're doing something for a reward. The greatest reward is the non-satisfaction of the deed that you've just done. Wow, that's nice. That's
very
deep
nice
stuff, man. I never said something like that. That's cool.
That is cool.
What do you think, John? Am I onto something?
Hey, we're gonna put that clip. We're gonna put that clip on TikTok.
So I want to ask you something. When you start reading about astral projection, they're all these things are kind of related to each other. One element is supposedly you can go and visit deceased people, which you just spoke of. There's psychical phenomena. Then we're talking about people who die that stay on the earthly plane. Now, when they're staying on the earthly plane, do you believe that they're actually, is it like a parallel? Like there's a veil between the astral plane and the earthly plane, and where they see what is physically here, but they're technically on the astral side of the fence per se.
What a brilliant question. Now, If I had not had my own experiences, I'd say yes. But to answer your question, I would say yes, they could be on both planes, on both dimensions, and even simultaneously. Now, let me tell you what occurred. I'm hearing some noise. You guys hear some noise?
No, but we can mute ourselves.
Okay, nod your head if you can still hear me. Okay, good. Good. See, that was a direct literal suggestion, actually. So, but let me tell you something. So I was staying at this lady's house in Arnhem. Her name was Narda. She was setting up hypnosis training courses for me. Now, she lived in a huge home in a neighborhood, had 3 levels. So the upstairs was a training room, and they lived on the 2nd floor. And I was down on the basement where originally it was a bank. So there's some big vault or something. And so I'm down there. That's my room. So one night I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden I'm being shaken. I'm being shaken. And so I wake up and I look, and there's 3 guys standing right over me, man. Now these are old 1940s or 30s European guys. These are military men, and they had beards, and they had, certain hats on and clothes on. And so they woke me up. They're actually, and I could see them perfectly. I was completely in full consciousness. This is not a dream. This is true experience that occurred. So they're shaking me, and I wake up and I look at them, and they're saying to me, and and what the impression I'm hearing is English. They're asking me if I've seen, and then they name this guy, this European name. Have you seen so and so? And I go, what? They go, have you seen so and so? We're looking for him. We can't find him. And they're frantic, and they're dirty. There was some war going on. You know what I mean? And so I kept saying, no, I don't know who that is. And they said, no, you got to find him. We need to find him now. And these 3 men finally convinced me to get up out of bed. They walked with me over to my little desk on the other side of the room. And I asked them, I said, well, what's the guy's name again? And they kept saying this European name. And I had them spell out the name, the first and last name for me. So they spelled out the whole thing. And then I said, so is this the name? And they all said, yeah, we need to find him. You've got to find him for us. So for some reason, they approached me for that. And so I said, okay, well, I'll do my best. I'll try to find him. So they said, okay. And then I went back, walked over to my bed, went back into bed, and went to sleep. In the morning, I woke up, and like some people who have these really amazing experiences with ghosts or spirits or souls, I thought to myself, was it real, or was I really dreaming? Now I know it was real. So I said, okay. I walked over to the desk. I looked on the table, and there was the guy's name. I had written it down. So it was really happened to me. And I started researching this person. Even had my current wife, because I contacted her, and I had Narda looking for this person. And we could not find this person. I did find out that during the war, because the Nazis invaded Arnhem, and they were killing a lot of the troops, a lot of the Dutch soldiers, and there was a big cemetery out there, that some of those soldiers stayed in her home. Some of them, because they needed a place to sleep some nights, would be in that home. She wasn't there then. The old owner was. And then a previous owner hung himself in the backyard on a tree. So there was definitely energy around that property. But what occurred to me truly was I was awoken out of a sleep by these military soldiers who were earthbound, trying to find a comrade, a close friend of theirs that they lost somehow during one of the scuffles or wars. You guys can put your things back on.
Amazing.
Is that wild?
Yeah, that is wild.
But now I'll go one step further. The other year I was with my wife, and I was sleeping. So in the morning, she looks at me and she says, do you speak German? I say, no, why? She goes, well, you were speaking German in your sleep. You were having a conversation, and she goes, I know it was fluent German because part of her has German heritage, you know. I do believe that, and I know I spend a lot of time, and I used to spend a lot of time when I was in ultra reality, in a sleep state where I was always on various frequency planes, talking and communicating with many people and spirits of people I've never even met before in my current life. And some people, when they dream, they have dreams of people that have never been in their life before. It's not all reliving an unresolved conflict or memories of strong triggered events of your past. That we can actually, when we go into a full natural sleep and get out of consciousness, we can be in that state of ultra consciousness. And that's the state of perceiving realities beyond our limited reality.
Absolutely. You know what? When I'm sleeping, I speak in tongues a lot, and it used to freak out my husband, and now he just like rolls over. And but I've also been known to speak in some other foreign language as well. That I even woke myself up speaking something, and it's like it sounded like Middle Eastern, but I don't speak any, I don't speak Middle Eastern languages, so I didn't know what I was saying. But it wasn't like La Galia, right? It wasn't like that. It was like very specific tones and cadences where it's like, this is definitely language. I don't know what the hell I just said, but I know I said something. I don't know why I was dreaming this. Maybe I was on the astral plane, speaking to someone, or maybe I had slipped into a past life in my sleep when maybe I was in that region of the world in one of my past lives. So who knows?
There's a phenomenon. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you talk first, John, please.
There's a phenomena that I've been reading about that seems to occur about once a year, that for at least the last 5-6 years, in which someone has some sort of a traumatic accident, like a car accident, and they go into a coma or something. And when they wake up, they are speaking a completely different language that they never knew, at least on a conscious level, along with the accent that goes with it. And they're speaking it fluently. And then usually within a week to 2 weeks, it starts to fade away, and then they go back to their original language. And then they're unable to speak that other language again. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Fascinating.
I have heard about that. Now, I'll tell you guys, I was attacked by spirits twice. I was attacked by some angry spirits 2 times in my life. They both happened in England, by the way. So the first one, I was teaching a course in the country or the province called Somerset, and it was where Bath, England, or Bath, England, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Tomatoes. But so I was at the Baalbek Conference Center. Now, the Baalbek Conference Center back in the 1800s was actually a hospital for the mentally insane, as well as they would take women who were pregnant, young girls that were pregnant out of wedlock, and they would take them out of society. They'd bring them, put them in these mental hospitals. They'd give birth, and you'd never see those women ever again, those young girls again. It was pretty taboo with the wealthier class of people back then. So anyway, so I was at the conference center, and I was hearing a friend of mine who was running the center was telling me about a lot of ghosts and spirits and sightings that have occurred. So for a few nights, I'd be walking around the brick tower and the building and everything, and I'd be trying to communicate with spirits. So I opened myself up is what happened.
I was about to say, there's your problem right there.
Yeah, but I didn't know that by doing that I could be.
You didn't put up any protection around you when you did that, did you?
No way. So So
Are you doing this mentally or verbally out loud?
I'm doing it mentally, but I'm walking around and
Right.
feeling and touching. You know, I'm becoming more sensitive, I would call it.
Mhm.
So anyway, nothing happened then, and so I went to bed, and I was in a room adjacent from the big building, a new structure that was built, and outside of my room was a window, and there was trees and a big grass field in that area. So I went to sleep, and when I was asleep, I started getting these weird physical sensations, extreme heat, perspiring, extreme cold and chills. And then all of a sudden I had a vision. We can call it a dream. So what occurred was I was in a hospital room, and apparently I was a woman because men don't give birth to babies. And I was in a hospital bed, and I'm moaning and groaning. And there's this nurse with a big hat and the big puffy clothes, and the doctor, and they're motivating me to lift my legs and push and whatever they were saying. So I was doing all of that, and it was a very painful ordeal. And so
Now
finally,
you know what it's like.
the baby came, and the doctor is holding the baby, and you could see from his clothes it was all somewhere in the mid or early 1800s, and he's smiling and laughing, and he's saying, "It's an English baby, an English baby," you know. And then I woke up in the morning, and I said, "Wow, that was kind of weird." So now I go in the bathroom, and I'm getting ready to go teach my course. So I'm brushing my teeth and washing my face. All of a sudden, I turn around in the mirror. I could see I had 1,000 scratches, fingernail scratches, all over my
Ugh.
back, and they
Ooh.
weren't just little ones. They were welts, but some of them you could see
Whoa.
fingers, you know, all over, all over.
Ugh.
It wasn't painful, but it was really
Weird.
disturbing.
Yeah, for sure.
So I went and taught the course, and then when I came back, I went back in the bathroom, and they were all gone. So then the next night I'm sleeping, and I woke up in the morning, and when I woke up, there was blood dripping out of both of my ears.
Oh God.
And I don't mean a little blood, I mean a lot of blood dripping out of my ears. And so I contacted the person who set up my training, real concerned. I went to the emergency hospital. They did all these tests. It kind of disappeared and was gone, and they couldn't find anything wrong with me. So then I'm talking to the keeper of the Bailbrook Center, and I was telling him what just happened to me. And he said to me, he said, "You know, in that field right outside your window?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That used to be where the mortuary was, where they put all of the people who died. And don't forget, they would do all kinds of weird tortures and electric therapies and all kinds of weird
Right.
stuff." And so I got a feeling that I attracted someone in the field. And
Yeah,
then I was
somebody
in
didn't like
England.
you. Somebody didn't want you there.
No. And then I was in London a few years later
Nosing
teaching
around.
at the Royal Society of Medicine, and my room wasn't ready, so they took me up these little circular stairs to some other room way up above in the back, small little door. I went to bed, and I had those same chills, hot and cold, and real weird anxiety dreams. In the morning, I went into the bathroom, and I had those exact scratches again. But this time you could see it was where 3 fingers were just areas where I could never put anything. I
Yeah,
could
you
never
couldn't do
touch
your
those
own.
areas. I checked the beds, right, and there was nothing there on the beds. But apparently, when I came back, the same entity found me again. You know, and then I talked to Orman McGill about it, and he told me what happened, and he worked with me, and we removed all of that stuff, and never came back again. But
Good.
isn't that wild?
Good. That
And there's a
totally
name for
wild.
that. If you look it up, there's a name for what those extreme scratches all over your body are from
Yeah.
these earthbound entities, you know?
Yeah, and how awesome was it that you got to work with Orman McGill? I wish I could have met the man. His legend, you know, he's legendary now. But what was that like?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, we were the best of buddies.
Yeah.
I knew more about Orman than most anyone knew. We'd stay together. I'd visit him. I'd stay at his house. He let me drive his car around. He was living in Palo Alto during those days at the
Mhm.
Stevenson House. He also channeled the father of yoga, a gentleman named Patanjali, 2nd century AD. So he was always getting into conversations, and Patanjali was always talking to him about various different things in the world going on. I mean,
Wow, I
Orman
had
was
no
amazing.
idea.
Orman was a mystic.
Yeah.
When Orman's wife Delight died, what occurred was, and he told me the story. I might even have it on video. He told me that every night, because he was in complete pain and
Mhm.
devastated. Now Gail Boyne tries to take credit for getting Ormond out of this pain, but you know, Gil used to take credit for a lot of things. But Ormond told me that Delight would wake him up every night on his bed and have him write down what was going on the spiritual side, on the other side. And so she would tell him everything going on the spiritual planes, the heaven planes, the astral planes. And he wrote a whole book. She wouldn't let him go to sleep. She'd force him to stay up to continue this writing until he finished this whole book about what was going on the other side.
Is this
The
a
name of the book
published
is
book?
called, yeah, it's called The
Yeah.
Book of Delight. Grieve
The
no
Book of
more, my
Delight.
darling. Yeah.
Okay,
And
I'm
Delight
gonna
was
look
her
that
name.
up.
how he was communicating in this way?
How was he?
Yeah.
She was sitting on the bed talking to him.
Okay, so it wasn't anything he had to consciously try to do. It just
No.
naturally.
She just
occurred.
popped up on the bed and woke him up like I was woke up by those 3 soldiers. She woke him up and wanted him to know that everything's fine. She even told him that she was going to be leaving soon before she died. She even told him that, you know, I'm going to be moving soon. I'm moving on soon. And I want you to know that, you know, and there was nothing ill going on at that point. But she told him that she was only here for a little while.
Wow.
So sometimes think about it. Sometimes our loved ones might be the angels sent down from heaven. I have a dog like that. My dog Tandy, our
Aw.
little English golden retriever. She is a spiritual angel. She is somebody that will be revealed to me when I leave this plane. But we have this communication, this nonverbal communication, and we're soulmates. And we do telepathy communication with a dog. Can you believe that? With a dog.
I do that with my cat.
There you
So
go.
I get it. But yeah, my cat's still with me, and I give her pictures of like food, like me opening the can of food to feed her, and then she'll lick her lips, and then she'll jump down and she'll go to her bowl. So we've mastered that.
I got to tell you 2 more stories before I get off, because I have to go. I'm going in I have to have a COVID test to prove I don't have COVID within 3 days of my trip to Holland.
Okay.
Or they won't let me fly there. So I've got an appointment at 3 o'clock.
Right.
But let me
Okay,
tell you
yeah, so we'll...
2 quick things. Okay. I was teaching a course in Southern California, and there was this guy, John Panero. He was one of the students. Anyway, I did a group past life regression on him. So John becomes this doctor at this hospital in New York, and you know, and he became this person, his mannerisms, his words, and everything. So, and he was giving specific details. The surgeons working with him, the hospital, his car, the serial number. His driver's license, his license plate, his home address, his wife. So it was really an amazing experience, and he didn't remember anything when he came out. So I started having some private training courses where I'd have students fly in from other countries and train with me in my home. So I had this young guy from India in my course. And so I would pay John like a few $100 a day to come in so we can practice some techniques. And so this guy can see what a true, what we might call somnambulist is, like a person that can go out of consciousness. So I did a past life regression on John again. Wouldn't you know it, he goes back again to the hospital, you know, and he's Dr. Laurie, I think his name was, and going through the surgery. And I asked him certain questions again, got the exact information, you know, because I was doing criminal investigation in Taiwan. I know how to ask certain non-leading questions to test validities. And so it was amazing. And the guy from India talked about parallel lives. He said that our culture believes that our past lives are still our current lives. They're just on a different plane, that everything is parallel.
Yeah.
So
everything is happening in simultaneous time.
Exactly. So I had another student come in from Africa, and so Johnny's there, and I take Johnny back to a past life. I don't tell him where he's going. Now he's having dinner with his wife at some fancy hotel in New York, and he's getting ready. He's having champagne with her, getting ready to go into the party with all these doctors that he doesn't like, but he's invited, so he has to be there. So start asking him questions. All of a sudden he says, "It's you again." I go, "What?" He goes, "It's you." He goes, "Can't you leave me alone?" He goes, "You're constantly taking time out of my life, coming in at unexpected times, asking me these questions. Can't you leave me alone? I'm having dinner. I'm having drinks with my wife." I say, well, who am I? He goes, "It's you." I go, "Who am I?" He goes, "You're the voice. You're the voice that keeps interfering in my life." Then all of a sudden he stops, and then all of a sudden he looks up and he starts to smile. He goes, he goes, "There's some old rabbis here, and they know who the voice is. They know who you are." And that was the last time I ever did a past life regression on him.
Yeah.
But I've never had somebody in a past
Wow,
life.
that's amazing.
Well, think about it, because usually they're following your suggestions.
Yeah.
And are they really having a past life, or are you giving them leading suggestions to stimulate their imagination? You're directing them to go someplace. Just by me saying, "Go back to your past life," I've already given you an indication that you must have had a past life, whether you did or didn't. Are you a man or a woman? I've already implied a direct suggestion. So then one other time, and I was in Taiwan, and this was again during 94 to 99. And I've been in the field of hypnotism for 37 years. That resume was like 7 years old. So, but just to clarify, I hypnotized this woman that was accusing a famous celebrity of raping her. It was in all the newspapers. They wanted to know, did this famous MC TV show host really rape this celebrity girl? And so I went in the room to hypnotize her with Dr. Wong, and she didn't want that. So I wasn't gonna do that. I don't care about that crap. I just care about what she wanted. She wanted to have a spiritual lesson from her Buddha. So, because everyone is 97% Buddhist. So we put her into that state we call hypnosis. We altered the frequencies and took her into where her Buddha was. Her spiritual teacher. So all of a sudden, she's with the Buddha and she's in this lotus position. Everything, all of a sudden, she changes and she's talking. She's having this conversation. And Dr. Wong's trying to tell me what she's saying as she's talking to her master, her spiritual leader. Then all of a sudden, as Dr. Wong's talking to me, she looks at Dr. Wong. She says something to him in Chinese, and he looks at me kind of bewildered and shocked. I go, "What'd she say?" He told me, he said that her spiritual leader told her not to talk to anyone in the room until he's through giving her lesson. So all of a sudden, Dr. Wong and I, we're out of the picture, man. We're just sitting there. She's having this conversation. The camera person fell into hypnosis listening to me. So I look, and the guy's on the ground like a dead weight. And so about 20 minutes later, she finally turns to us and says to him that he said she can speak to us now. Isn't that bizarre? So she went into her spiritual guru, her Buddhist teacher, and he took control of everything going on and took it away from the hypnotist.
Wow.
Isn't that weird, man?
That is weird. That is so cool. Oh my gosh, I would love to unpack this even more. Will you please come back on the show?
Yeah. Because there's a lot of stuff we should talk about.
So much, so much good stuff in there. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for coming on today and telling your stories. I really, really appreciate it. You're such a fascinating guy. And I just love you, and thank you so much for all that you do.
Well, it's such a pleasure to see you again, Stephanie. You You have so many people that love you in the field of hypnotism. You're so brilliant. You're so bright and so much light. And remember, to tune in, you need to tune out. Tune out of your thoughts. Tune out of your belief system. Tune out of your preconditioned ways, and tune into the amazing ability to tap into a universe that you never knew existed, that's been here all the time, even before us. So thank you so much for having me on, you guys.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
See you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
See you next time.
Bye. Okay.
All right, so very cool. So thank you. I just want to thank all the viewers for watching our very first show of the Woo Side. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be bringing you more of these shows. You know, coming up soon in the future. So I'm going to sign off, and we don't have a catchphrase yet. We'll come up with one, won't we, John? Okay.